Getting old. Life, our universe, layer upon layer of information, but is it relevant to you? It's the old story. If you're thirsty, should you start digging the well now? Nope, you should have started weeks ago when there was water, planning for the future. Life is so multi-layered. For me, Qigong is a starting point. So often our bodies deteriorate over a long period of time. We don't notice the decline. We start feeling older, by which time it's already become too late. We become progressively more upset with the world around us as it stops conforming to what we believe to be right. We get angrier or more depressed as the time slides by. We slip into depression, dementia, or permanent bad tempers. Again, too late to save ourselves. We collect bad habits in our diet too. Sweets as children become biscuits and cakes as adults. Portion control goes out of the window. Before we know it, obesity and heart attacks loom. All too late. What's to be done? Think of a milking stool. 3 legs hold it up. Mental hygiene, physical exercise, and a clean diet. The 3 pillars of my therapy. It's never too late to start. Every effort you put in now will add longevity. I often hear people say, "God, I don't want to live to be that old." It's a very powerful thought. Your mind and body both hear that and understand that you want to limit the clock. Be careful what you wish for. You are in control of this amazing chemical factory we call our body. If you tell it you don't want to live to be 100 years old, it'll oblige in one way or another. The picture we have of growing old is not a good one. My lovely maternal grandmother lived to be 100 years old. She was uncomplaining, optimistic, kind and happy throughout. She rarely complained, except as she slid to her last few years. "This hotel is the worst I've ever stayed in. The staff keeps stealing my nighttime whiskey." Dementia, well, it can be cruel, but funny as well. Her arthritis slowed her down a bit. She used to habitually massage her sore hands on a cold Scottish day and try to straighten her stooped back. "I must stand up better." For her, and I suspect that she'd had a tough life, it was about marching onwards without complaint, in a stately way. We just assume that it'll all be miserable. Well, I have the pleasure to know and work with amazing students who are practicing Qigong into their 80s, and I'm hoping into their 90s as well, as we all age together like fine wines. I was just noticing how one student, who must be 20 or 25 years my senior, has a bow body bend which is much superior to mine. I want to be like her when I grow up. My point, obviously, is that old age shouldn't be about being knackered. We all know an old person who's lived an amazing life. One of my clients passed away in his late 80s. His family had demanded that I attend twice a week to help cure him. We used to do a few exercises, chat a lot, and I'd give him a treatment. As I was trying to rev him up one day, he said to me, "You have to accept that my time has come and that I'm happily dying." I was rather taken aback by that. I asked him if he wanted me to stop coming to visit him, to which he replied, "No, this is the most fun I have in each week. I love our conversations and I always feel much better after you've been." One day I received a call that I'd been dreading. He'd passed away the day after I last saw him. Sad on the face of it. However, I discovered that after my session, he'd phoned all of his friends and told them to meet him in the pub that evening. He'd arranged a fiddler to play some music and had danced and drank late into the night. He hugged and said goodbye to everybody and then had gone home to bed. The next morning, he passed peacefully. At his funeral, his family thanked me for all the life I'd given him. Well, I just thought, what an amazing way to go. There's this idea that we have to work until we're 65 and then the machine will spit you out the other end, a used up husk with a few broken years ahead of you. More and more people are eschewing this path and making their living doing things that they love. It's important, I think, to follow your truth, but that is not enough. I started in earnest at 30. Many of my clients have started in their 50s and 60s, some even in their 80s. Some have saved themselves from seriously dangerous chronic health issues. Some, just simple changes that have meant the world to them. Getting your knees or back working again might sound like a small thing, but it can change a life. My remedy for the body is Qigong. If we examine the layers I was talking about earlier, then this is the physical layer. On the face of it, we can feel our bodies, we can see the musculature, it's all pretty real. In Chinese medicine, there's a next layer. This is the Qi layer. It's the underlying energy that moves the body. We often hear science tell us about mitochondria and energy in our muscles and cells. We hear that it's possible to detect small amounts of light, electricity, magnetism, and even something akin to nuclear power in our chemistry. All of these things are Qi. This actually doesn't do it any justice. It's much more than that, but it's a fair starting point. The next kind of layer up would be the emotional self. A thought generates an electropulse from the brain that triggers a flush of chemicals through the body. This is an emotion. Somebody says something embarrassing to you, you blush. The emotion causes blood to rise to your skin. We're all bags filled with emotion. Every day we experience these gusts of chemicals blowing through our bodies. Well, most scientists will tell you that we only really hear 5% of the thoughts in our head, and that 95% we don't hear. But these can have a dramatic effect on the chemical makeup of the body. Are you in charge of that process? Or do old patterns and stories you've built through your childhood into adulthood still rule your chemical process? I'll never be good enough for my boss, for my wife, etc. These give way to toxic streams of chemicals, quietly damaging your body day after day. I prescribe mental hygiene. For my one-to-one clients, I often send them resources such as the La Qi healing meditation. We use this in my free classes on a Wednesday morning and then on YouTube. My other favourites are a compassion meditation and Ho'oponopono. The latter is a Hawaiian forgiveness tool. It's amazingly powerful. One client kindly shared a story that she hadn't spoken to one of her children for months. I recommended Ho'oponopono to her, and she said she would do her first practice that evening. She called me amazed the next day to say that she'd practiced for a little while and then her child had called her out of the blue. When we feel down or things have become too difficult with our family and our friends, there's nothing to be done about it. We have to realise that we can't manipulate or change other people. Maybe that's what caused the problem in the first place. The only thing we can change is ourselves. Using these tools, we're able to change how we feel about ourselves, and thus, like a pebble in a pond, things start to change around us. We've built so many unhealthy patterns that the diet story is one that can plague us all, sometimes all of our lives. I take a simple approach. I'm not a qualified dietitian. For me, I do a gallbladder and liver cleanse. You can find that book on my resources page of my website. I do it a few times a year. And I drink green drinks every day, also available on the website. I supplement my diet with vitamin C and vitamin D in high doses and a multivitamin. It's about giving your body and mind every chance to be its best. The physical, i.e. diet and exercise layers, help us to build up and store our qi. The emotional and mental work helps to take the weight off our ego selves. There are still more layers as we move up. We've gone through the physical into qi, through energy into emotions, and finally to the more ethereal mental realms. The broader idea for this layer would be consciousness. Science seems to place this consciousness as being guided by our physical bodies. Reference the double slit experiment, etc. It demonstrates that our consciousness can bring about changes in the world around us. It was Ramesh Balaskar who put it so beautifully for me. He says, "You're all surrounded by these electrical devices, phones, computers, kettles and lights. We can't see the electricity and it's exceptionally difficult to understand. Yet it's common to all of these devices. Consciousness is the same for all of us. This unified energy operates in and through us all. We understand little of it, but should realize its existence and try to search and understand it nonetheless." I have spent the last 30 years doing exactly this. One of the first spiritual things I ever did was to have the Om symbol tattooed on my arm. I was so drawn to it. It's one of the oldest symbols in the world. It contains the path for humanity encoded in this one shape. The first figure, like an oddly shaped 3, represents the 3 states of mankind: sleeping, dreaming, and awakening. There's a veil drawn between this symbol and a simple dot. The dot represents God, all there is, the Creator, or more simply, consciousness. When we put it all together, we find the wise men from thousands of years ago were showing us the path. Move from crashing through life in a mindless rush to find your true self. I don't think 10 hours of Qigong every day will do it. And I certainly don't think that putting yourself back to sleep with 10 hours of meditation every day will do it either. A simple Qigong workout, and for me, a standing meditation session each day is enough, along with eating well, to put me in a good frame for a happy, healthy life. I think the revelation of enlightenment is something that finds you, not something you can force. Put yourself on the right road. Live a happy, healthy life. And if you're supposed to become enlightened, then you will. At worst, you'll become still, centered, healthy, and happy. You'll live a long, joyous life. I'm not sure what more you'd want. Tend to every layer of life, not just the look of it. If you want help finding the path, I'm your signpost. I can help you find the start of the way. With all of my love, Jeremy.